Hello everyone, today we will discuss Android location permissions. In one of my earlier videos, I covered the location permissions and their practical use cases. If you haven't watched that video, I recommend checking it out first to get a solid foundation for this video. The link is given in the description. Since that video, Google has made several changes to how location permissions work, particularly when you are getting location in the background. These updates include stricter policies, new permissions, and additional configuration steps. We will discuss all these in next few minutes. So, objective of this video is to understand Android location permissions that are required to get user location in the foreground as well as in the background. By foreground, we mean when the application is open and you are interacting with it. By background, we mean when the application is closed or minimized and you are not interacting with it. Understanding Android location permissions is critical for tracking apps like Uber and inDrive, and it becomes more important if you are getting user location in the background and dealing with the latest Android versions. So these are the three permissions that are required to get a user location in the foreground as well as in the background. You will have to declare these three permissions in the manifest file as well as to handle at runtime. So let's first of all understand difference between fine location and coarse location. Coarse location offers location based on Wi-Fi and cell towers, and its accuracy is round about 100 meters. That means that the location you are getting will occur in a buffer of 100 meters. The second permission is fine location. This permission gives you more accurate and precise location based on GPS and network data, and its accuracy is 5 to 50 meters. That means that the location will occur in a buffer of 5 to 50 meters. Now coming towards foreground tracking. If you want to get user location in the foreground, then these two permissions, fine location and coarse location, will be sufficient, and it will work for all Android versions. If you want to get user location in the background, then if you are targeting Android 9 and below versions, then fine location and coarse location will work for you. That is, these two permissions will be sufficient to get user location in the background if you are targeting Android 9 and below versions. But if you are targeting Android 10 and higher versions, then you will need an extra permission, access background location. Now coming towards the foreground service requirements. If you want to get user location in the background and you are targeting Android 7 and below versions, then there is no need to create a foreground service or show a notification to the user. You can simply get user location in the background without any foreground service or notification. But if you are targeting Android 8 and above versions, then you will have to run background services as a foreground service, and you will also have to show a notification to the user. Later on in the code, we will see how we can run a background service as a foreground service and how we can show a notification to the user. For higher Android version, there are even more requirements for foreground services. For Android 9 and above versions, you have to declare foreground service permission in the manifest file. Otherwise, it will throw security exception. This permission is just needed in the manifest file and you don't have to handle it at runtime. For Android 14, you have to specify foreground service type. And for background location updates, this type is foreground service location. So you will have to declare this permission in the manifest file. This permission is also just needed in the manifest file and you don't have to handle it at runtime. Now coming towards permission request flow. These two permissions, file location and course location, will show a runtime permission dialog within the application. So these two permissions will show this dialog for granting the permission. If you want to get user location in the background and targeting Android 10 and higher versions, then you will have to declare access background location permission in the manifest file as we discussed earlier. So this permission will show a second in-app runtime dialog for Android 10. So after this dialog, you will see another dialog for Android 10 if you have declared this permission in the manifest file. And for Android 11 and higher versions, access background location permission will take you to the app setting screen, to this screen, and here you will explicitly grant the location permission. So this was all the theoretical stuff. Now coming towards the code. This is the code that I have prepared. Actually, this is a user tracker app which track user location in the foreground as well as in the background. The code is very simple and self-explanatory, so I will just give you a high-level overview. In the XML layout of main activity, there are two buttons: Start Service and Stop Service. This button will start the service, that is user tracking, and this button will stop it. In the main activity, here you can see we are referencing to those two buttons. If Start Service button is clicked, we are starting the service, and if Stop Service button is clicked, we are stopping it. If we go to Start Service function, there are three conditions. In the first condition, we are checking simple location permissions, that is file location and course location, and you can see that there is no extra condition to filter out the Android version, as these two conditions are required for all Android versions. So if both file location and course location permissions have been granted, then this method will return true, otherwise false. If we get false here, then we are requesting find location and course location in this method. In the next condition, we are checking for access background location, and here you can see an extra condition because this permission is required in Android 10 and higher versions. For lower versions, it will always return true. So if we get false here, then we are requesting access background location permission in this method. In the next condition, we are checking for post notification permission. As this permission is required for Android 13 and higher versions, so we are putting this extra condition here. And for lower version, it will always return true. So if these three conditions are satisfied, that is find location, course location, access background location and post notification permissions have been granted, then we can start the service. Here we are creating an intent to the my location service class. We will discuss this class in a while. And then we are starting the background service as a foreground service in these line of code depending on the Android version. In the next method, we are just stopping the service. Now coming towards the on request permission result method. When you grant or decline a permission in the pop-up, you can catch your result in this method and then can streamline your application flow. For example, if you grant find location and course location permissions, then you will be directed here. Next, we are checking for the background location permissions. If this condition is also satisfied, then we are checking for notification permission. So if all these conditions are satisfied, then we show a message to the user that all required permissions have been granted. If you are directed here, then this will mean that these two permissions, that is find location and course location, have already been granted. So here we are checking for notification permission. If this condition is also satisfied, then we show a message to the user. Similarly, if you are directed here, then this will mean that these two permissions have already been granted and you only check for the notification permission. And if it is satisfied, then you show a message to the user. So now coming towards the my location service class, here you can see that we are initializing a variable location request and setting some necessary parameters. And here we are initializing a callback location callback, and this callback will print the user current location after some specific interval of time that we are setting here in this variable. The next method is on create. In this method, we are initializing fused location client and calling start foreground with notification method. This method is important. In this method, we are creating a notification channel for Android 8 and higher versions, because for Android 8 and higher version, it is necessary to show a notification to the user as we discussed earlier. And here we are setting some necessary parameters, for example channel ID, channel name and other parameters. Here one thing is important, that For Android 14 and higher versions, you have to pass this extra parameter to start foreground service. For lower version than 14, this parameter is not necessary. This is actually foreground service type that we have declared in the manifest file. In this method, we are creating a thread in which we are actually requesting the location updates. Here we are creating a separate thread for the location update to avoid main thread blocking. You can also use a coroutine instead of this thread, which will offload the location tracking from the main thread. So this was a brief explanation of this application. Now I am going to install it and then I will show you a practical demo. So I am going to install it. So the application has been successfully installed. Now I am going to show you a live demo. This is the application that I have installed. Now let's open it. Now when I will click Start Service button, it will show me a pop-up to grant the location permissions because I am clicking this button for the first time. So it's showing me a pop-up. This pop-up is for find location and course location. Now when I will click while using the app button, it will take me to the application settings screen. Because my device is having Android 14 and this application also needs background location permission. So now I am clicking while using the app button. So it took me to the app settings screen. From here, I will click allow all the time. Now I am going back to the application. Now it's asking for the notification permissions. So all the required permissions have been granted and we are ready to start the service. Now I am clicking start service button again. So location tracking has been started and now you will see the location updates of the user. So here you can see that I am getting the location updates continuously. Even if I minimize the application, then still I am getting the location updates. If I completely close the application, then still I will be able to get the location updates. So here you can see that the application is closed and I am getting the location updates continuously. So this was the live demo of the application. That's it for today. Thank you.